Hi friends, welcome to the video. I'm Olivia, and if you've never seen my face before, I am a fragrance enthusiast, reviewer, whatever you'd like to call me. And if you have seen my face before, hi friends, welcome to the video. I am so excited because today we have a very fun video. I'm going to be talking all about the designer fragrances in my collection. First off is probably the best known designer fragrance of all time. This is Lancome La Vie Belle, and this has been around, I believe, since 2012. And when this came out, I actually got this for my mom. This is a very sweet, everlasting fragrance. So if you like things like Flower Bomb by Viktor and Rolf, this is very similar. This has a praline note, but this also has iris. So it gives it a little bit of powderiness. This is a very, very feminine fragrance. Now, I've heard from a lot of people that they said that this gives them quite a bit of a headache. I could understand if you oversprayed this would be a headache monster. I agree, but it is a beautiful fragrance in my opinion. Because it's been around for a long time, gets a lot of hate. A lot of people say it doesn't smell very original, but this is the original. This was the blueprint for so many gourmand fragrances, floral gourmand fragrances. If you enjoyed this scent, but it gives you a headache, I would say spray it on your lower area, right? Spray it onto your legs, spray it on your lower torso, spray it behind your knees, so that way it's not right by your face and suffocating you. This is, in my opinion, one of the longest lasting designer fragrances that you can come across. If you like something that is very, very, very sweet, but something that's ultra feminine at the same time, I would say that this would be a great option for you. Next is L'eau d'Issey by Issey Miyake. Now, this is a vintage scent. This is actually older than me. So I was born in 1993, I'm 30 years old, and this came out in 1992. This is a 31-year-old fragrance. You can find this at a lot of discount stores. You can find this at Ross, TJ Maxx, and you can usually find it for about $30. This is an aquatic fragrance. Think watery, think a little bit green, think very fresh. And to me, if you guys have ever smelled any of the Aquage hair products, it smells exactly like that. And although it came out in 92, I don't feel like it smells dated. I feel like this is a very timeless fragrance, and it's really great for spring and summer. In the hotter months where you want something that's bright and uplifting and fresh, but has the 90s quality of lasting a very long time, because a lot of the freshies now, they do not last. And I'll do a video on that soon, talking about fragrances that I love that simply don't last. And this is not one of them. So if you like something that's aquatic, L'eau d'Issey by Issey Miyake. Next is J'adore by Dior, and this is actually J'adore Absolu, and I got this as a birthday gift a few years ago, and this is a floral bomb. So if you like white florals, you're sure to love this. This almost has a soapy element to this, and I won't lie, this has a maturity to it that I feel like we are losing the appreciation for the more sophisticated floral scents. And a lot of people would say, it smells like a grandma. I don't like to use that terminology because at the end of the day, being a grandma is not a monolith. Jasmine forward, a little bit soapy, but also very warm and a little bit ambery. It's a little bit mature, and I absolutely adore it. Next is Calvin Klein Women. I feel like for designer fragrances that you can find at a really good price, I think I paid about $25 for this. Their quality and their scent profiles are immaculate. They last a long time, and they have some really unique fragrances while still being very mass appealing, which is hard to do if you like citrusy fragrances. This is a citrus forward fragrance, but it has a lot of florals as well. And it also has the supporting note of black pepper. Now, to me, I don't really care for black pepper. In this, it just adds a little bit of spiciness and helps to tamper down the tanginess of the citruses. If you like things like Light Blue by Dolce & Gabbana, I think that you would really enjoy this. It's light, fresh, citrusy, a little bit aquatic with some supporting florals. It's very, very, very long lasting. And I know this one is a little bit harder to find, but you can find it on discount stores. And I also think that this has a slight masculinity to it. It has a slight cologne essence to it. So if you're like me and you like to rock out a little bit more unisex florals, this one would be great. Next is Angel Muse EDT by Mugler. Now, I had a girlfriend of mine that I used to work with, and she wore the EDP version of this, and it just had an intoxicating aroma. And I would always be like, what is that? And this is prior to me collecting fragrances. So she would always say, oh, it's by Mugler, you know? No, I didn't know. When I bought this, I ended up buying the EDT version. So this is the lighter, fresher version. This has a lot of interesting notes. So this actually has a hazelnut chocolate spread note to it. This has a sweetness to it. It has a little bit of nuttiness to it, but it's made bright and fresh with the note of grapefruit. So you get a burst of tanginess. This is very unique in the way that it has both a juiciness, a gourmand element, but it also has a bit of earthiness. I know in the original EDP, it had a very strong patchouli, and that's why I decided to get this, because this is actually a vetiver, so it still has that dry, earthy element, but it's a little bit tampered down and a little bit brighter. Next is Chanel No. 5 L'eau, and I know Chanel No. 5 is heralded as the most grandma of grandma fragrances that ever existed. And I understand. The original was very soapy, yet very ambery, floral, very rich, and kind of a scent profile that we have strayed from over the years. And so we do think of more mature women wearing it. And I believe this rendition came out in 2017. And this is completely different from the original while still maintaining a little bit of that essence. But this one is much more citrusy and light and fresh. So this is a citrus aldehydic fragrance. And if you don't know what I mean by aldehydic, it is a fragrance note that is a synthetic fragrance note that adds a almost sparkling champagne-like quality while being soapy. So imagine this is very, very soapy, very minimalistic and clean, while having a little bit of a citrus kiss to it. I enjoy it a lot. I could understand that it's not for everybody, but surprisingly enough, this is a compliment getter with men. So if you're looking for something that's both classic, but modern, minimalistic, and fresh, this is a great choice. And next is Irresistible by Givenchy. This is the EDP. I know they have a bunch of different versions of this. And this is a beautiful fragrance. And I think a lot of people think that this smells a little bit generic, which I could understand in a way, but this is like a light raspberry musky scent. So if you like something that's clean and fresh, but it doesn't smell like laundry detergent, it smells sweet yet sophisticated. It does not smell juvenile, and it's very, very, very feminine. Light, fresh, sweet, feminine, everyday, yet has a little bit of sexy, alluring qualities to it. I would go with this one. I don't know if you guys can see, I have a decent dent in this. And this was actually from one use. I went out for a friend of mine's birthday. You know, I had a little bit of a headache. I didn't really want to wear anything fussy. So I grabbed this and I was like, this is a cute, easygoing fragrance. Anytime anybody would compliment me, I'd be like, hey, do you want to try it? So in one night, I made this big of a dent because I was spraying the whole karaoke bar that we went to. I might have been a little bit tipsy, but you know, I had a really good time, and this is just such a sweet, feminine compliment getter fragrance. Back with some more Mugler fragrances. This is Angel Goddess and Angel Goddess Intense. If you are not the type of person that's very finicky with fragrances, having both isn't necessary, but I'll tell you the differences. So the original, this is a very tropical vanilla coconut. This almost has a little bit of a sunscreen type smell to it. Oh, but it's so fresh and it's so beautiful and it's very mass appealing. It has a little bit of powderiness to it, but it's light and airy and sweet and perfect for summertime. A lot of people say, oh, it smells like copper tone. I think it's a little bit more refined than that, but I can agree that Mugler fragrances have changed a lot over time. They are a lot more mass appealing, so the likelihood that you would enjoy this is very high if you like the vanilla coconut light fresh summer fragrances. But if you want something that hits a little bit harder, the intense version is fantastic. The coconut in the original is more of a coconut water. It's very light and airy, and this is more of a coconut cream. Think of a sophisticated body butter where you've got a rich vanilla, you've got a rich, thick, fatty coconut, and you've got also a hit of white florals. This is white floral dominant. So if you don't like white florals, this probably won't be for you. But it also has a very warm ambery component. So whereas this would be very spring and summer, this would be more of your wintry, fall date night, rich, thick, ambery vanilla coconut. I get a strong hit of jasmine in this one. This one is a little bit closer to the original, nowhere near it to be honest, but out of the two, this one is a little bit more similar where you get that strong, powdery, rich jasmine. Next is Burberry Her Elixir. Now, my husband wears the original Burberry Her almost every single day. This little bottle is a 1.5 fluid ounce. He completely finished a 5-ounce bottle of the original. He whipped through it in a year. This is a sweet, powdery, musky, very fruity fragrance. A lot of people say that this smells a little bit like Baccarat Rouge, and I could see a similarity, but Baccarat Rouge has almost a medicinal type quality and is a little bit more masculine. This is like the sweet, cute younger sister. And what is the difference between this and the original is that this one has a little bit more creamy elements. And you can see that within the bottle. This is an opaque bottle versus the original is see-through. So if you like musky, sweet, feminine, easygoing, but slightly creamy fragrances, this one would be for you. Next is Prada Candy, and I think the naming of this is absolutely terrible if I'm being honest, because when I think candy, I think of something that's going to be sickly sweet, maybe even something that's going to be fruity, that's going to be very even juvenile, and this is not that at all. If anything, I would argue that it is a little bit mature. This is almost almondy and very, very powdery with a beautiful sophistication to it. The faux pas that I had for a long time is that I was smelling this on paper and I thought to myself, I really can't smell it that much. When I finally tried this on skin, I can't tell you how many times I went into Sephora and I would spray it on my skin and it had this smooth, creamy nuttiness with a powderiness and a sophistication, and I just felt like that girl. And so finally, my husband bought me this for my birthday, and it just has a really beautiful, soft, feminine, without being very sweet type quality to it. So the name does not make any sense to me, but if you like powdery, if you like sweet almond, I would go with this. Next is Valentino Voce Viva Intensa. So this is the intense version, and this is a white floral dominant fragrance. So if you don't like orange blossom, this one's not going to be for you because this is quite simply an orange blossom with a sweet vanilla bourbon that is rich and dark and gives this a sexiness This is a little bit mature, so it won't necessarily be for everyone who cannot handle white florals, but to me, this is very, very sexy. This in winter is absolutely astounding. It is beautiful. And so if you like something that's floral, but not necessarily super sweet, and it's not fruity at all, you want a little bit more of a vanillic, dark, rich touch to it, this one is a beautiful place to start. Speaking of almond fragrances, I want to talk about Marc Jacobs Perfect and Perfect Intense. Now these are a little bit different and I'll explain. So like I said, my husband loves Burberry Her. His second love, he puts this on every time we go to Sephora, is Marc Jacobs Perfect. And this is a very interesting fragrance because when you first spray it, it has the note of rhubarb. That gives almost a red Jolly Rancher type scent in the beginning. It is candied. It is super sweet, photorealistic red Jolly Rancher. But then as it dries down, it has this beautiful sweet almond in the background that gives it a little bit of smooth creaminess. And the difference of the Intense, this is much more gourmand. This takes away the fruitiness in the beginning, and this is a sweet almond ambery fragrance. So whereas this would be your spring summer, this is your winter date night rich almondy gourmand fragrance with a lot of amber. So pretty. And honestly, if both sound appealing, I think that they're different enough that you could have both in your collection and they do not feel redundant. Next is Haute Couture by Givenchy. Now I realize that these are harder to come across as time goes by because I believe this came out in 2002. It's a very old scent, but the reason that I purchased these is because I am a really big Amy Winehouse fan, and I went to an exhibit that was put on by her friend and stylist Naomi Perry that they had at the Grammy Museum here in Los Angeles prior to COVID. And just days before everything shut down, I went and they had her makeup on display. And what they had displayed was the EDP version. And at the time, I was not a fragrance collector, so I really didn't know that the EDP was actually different. So this is a very interesting fragrance because you have this beautiful sweet raspberry that's supported by earthiness. And a lot of people say that this ends up smelling a little bit smoky, almost like cigarette. And personally, I do not get a cigarette smoke. I get more of a earthy, dry woodiness. And I know that the EDT version is a little bit brighter, a little bit fresher, and this one is a little bit more wintry. So if you like something that has a little bit of sweetness, but it also has a bit of earthiness, it's very, very sexy, compliment getter. I think that these would be great to look into. You just have to decide, do you like sweeter or do you like a little bit darker and richer? So that's it today, my friends. I hope you enjoyed having a look at my designer fragrance collection. If there's any designer fragrances that you absolutely adore and I'm missing out on, comment them down below. I know that there's a bunch that I don't have, but I'm trying to keep it a little bit curated because God knows I have too many at this point anyways. So it was so great to talk with you guys today, and make sure that you are subscribed if you're not already. I come out with new videos every Saturday, 10 a.m. PST. I might be sneaking a few extra videos in there soon. And until next Saturday, take care of yourselves, my friends.